This was interesting. I heard this cut yesterday from Jeff Passan talking about something John Morosi had said. Now, I think John said this in the week that I was gone. He was on with you guys, so I hadn't heard what he had said. And this is obviously in the thick of the Mariners' struggles, and we feel better today because they've won 2 in a row. But leading into the series, everybody felt bad. What's going on? This was a dreadful road trip. And John Morosi said this is a team that needs fundamental change at the deadline.
This is the kind of a deadline where it's not the final piece kind of a deadline. It is take a step back. We've got issues here, and how do we fundamentally change this team, whether it's a different kind of right-left balance, whether it's a different kind of contact-oriented lineup. But this is not a team that needs an adjustment at the deadline. This one might need some really major renovations here. And this team, the Mariners, they've got to confront the reality that they probably have to make some pretty significant changes to make this a much more competitive roster.
So that's what he said to you guys, I guess, last week, which, okay, you're watching that road trip. You come out of that 2-6. I'm in lockstep with him there going, this isn't right. This is broken. This is, it's not just one spot. It's not just DH. It's not just second base. You got a lot that's just not clicking here. But then Jeff Passan, who's typically the downer, they used to call him the wet blanket on the morning show, and he had heard what John Morosi had to say about the Mariners, and here's Jeff Passan's response.
I do think ultimately they're going to be able to go out and be more like the team last year than they are the team this year. And I do not, John Morosi's my boy. He's been doing this a long time. I very much respect him. I disagree with him that they need wholesale changes, or that they may need to do something big in the opposite direction rather than trying to build here. I still think they're close. I just think that what they have right now isn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to over-exaggerate what JP said, but it's not like he said, entire tear down or anything, because they kind of did that.
It's about as negative as JP ever gets, by the way. Right
exactly.
There. That's about as down as I've ever heard him on the Mariners, and surprisingly, Jeff Passan's on the other side of the...
Yeah, they switched roles there.
Now, these last 2 days certainly changed your feelings, changed how I feel. I feel much better, certainly, but does it change the reality of their situation in that let's try to do your best to remove, and people can text in on this, 866-979-3776, powered by Mac and Jack's Brewing Company, sort of removing the great feelings we have, for good reason, over the past 2 nights. Coming out of that road trip, 2-6, they're getting their doors blown off in multiple games. Pitching's not there. You lean towards where JP sees this team, or do you lean towards where Jeff Passan sees this team? Because they disagree on what this team should be doing come the trade deadline.
Yeah.
So if you're just looking at it and just going, okay, all right, these 2 games are great, but does it change? Do you now feel like, hey, we got everything we need, we're fine? Or you still feel like, yeah, this is great. These past 2 nights have been great, but there's still problems within the way this team's been put together.
Yeah, I don't think that there's fundamental problems. I just think that there's slumping that's going on right now. So I'm more like I feel much more like Passan does. I thought the one thing that you said was bad last night, which it was. The top 4 in the order went 0-for-16. I love. The part I like about that is that you didn't have to rely on JP and Julio and Ty France and Teoscar, who went 0-for-16. You got it from the bottom of your order. You need to have certain guys start stepping up and, becoming, more regular players. I was looking at, I think, aren't the Arizona Diamondbacks kind of a surprise this year?
Mm-hmm.
They're 41-26, I think.
They just had their winning streak snapped.
Yeah. They did, but they got this guy Corbin Carroll, who's batting .313. He's got 71
local
hits.
guy, I believe.
Yeah, so and .398 on base percentage, and they're getting a lot of that out of guys that they have Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and some good players, Ketel Marte, but they're getting a lot of play out of like the back end of their lineup, so like 5 through 9. So, I feel like the fact that who was slumping last night, and yet you still get a 93 victory is a good sign.
Yeah, it's great if they You're just hoping that it can become more of a consistent thing. I don't expect the bottom three to give you 9 runs a night. That's not realistic.
Right.
But you can't have what it's been, which has been dreadful. Where it's if the top of the lineup didn't get it done, it wasn't going to happen. You were just getting nothing from your DH spot. You were getting nothing from your 9 spot. It wasn't happening. And you're going to have these nights. That's what's great about it when you've got a deep lineup, when you got a long lineup. You're going to have those nights where Julio's 0 for 4, or JP strikes out 3 times and he's 0 for 4. Yeah, it's not the norm, but you saw it last night, and the bottom of the order picked him up. That just hasn't been happening. So you're like, okay, is it all of a sudden fixed? Or are we going to get back to, all right, the top of the order is going to get it done, and we're not going to see much at the bottom end. So I just feel like if you had a hardcore opinion prior to these 2 games that this team, the way it's structured, the way it's configured, is not conducive, is not going to get you where you want to go. I don't know that these last 2 nights should change that opinion. If you're in the front office, if you're Jerry, if you're anybody in there making the decisions, if you're Ryan, if you're John Stanton, if you're looking at it going, well, no, I feel like we missed on this guy, or I don't like what's happening here. I think you'd probably still have that same opinion despite how things have gone the past 2 nights.
Yeah. That was a pretty big move last year for Luis Castillo. You expecting anything like that? That I'm not saying a starting pitcher, but I'm just saying a player of that caliber. I'll be very curious to see what they think, because I think they have the right guys here, that they just need to all play together. And this will kind of fold into we're going to talk about the hitting coach, or the mental skills coach, actually, who we're supposed to interview the other day, and then we got Mooney on. But I feel like that's the part that they feel like is just going to turn around, and that they don't necessarily need to go shopping for some big significant piece.
Yeah, I don't. First of all, I'm not really certain who as it gets closer, you start hearing names as to who's truly available. You got a wish list. It'd be great to get this guy from this roster and this guy from this roster, but who's truly available, you're not sure. I'm not sure. So, are they going to get a Luis Castillo type deal in the way of a hitter? They could. I would certainly like them to. I think that would be really, really awesome. I would. I as a Mariner fan would really appreciate that. Now,
to have a good DH.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. Again, is that we had some people texting in earlier, like, well, who do you trade Wong and get? You're not going to trade Wong. He's got no value.
No.
You're going to be on the hook for the remainder of his $10 million, and he's done nothing this season. So the only way a team is taking Wong is if the Mariners kind of pull what the Reds did in a sense with Gino Suarez. And yeah. You want Winker? All right, you're taking this $11 million contract off our hands with Gino Suarez for the next couple of years. That's part of the deal. We're going to give you the young all-star outfielder. You're going to take this guy who's making a lot of money and not doing what we want him to do. Or we got somebody who's young and ready to play third base, whatever their situation was. That's going to have to be the situation with Wong to a lesser extent. It's only one, he's on the remainder of 1 year. He's not signed past this season. So it's not that big of a burden for a team, but it's still going to be close to $5 million you're going to be paying this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been dreadful. So he's got to be a part of a package. Nobody's going to say, hey, what do you want for Wong? We'd like to get him over here, do some damage.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah.
It's funny, last year at this time, somebody texted in, Luis Castillo. And I remember the text very clearly because it just had Luis Castillo. That's it. No period. No, hey, what about this guy?
Just a name.
And, I just remember going, let me look him up. Oh, damn, he's pretty good. But, yeah, he was in the witness protection program, the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, and it'll like every year as the trade deadline approaches, you start hearing the names, you look at the standings. All right, who are the teams that are realistically, you look at them and go, they got no shot. It's over. Their season's done. Who are the high price guys they don't want to pay? Whatever. I mean, everybody's got a different dynamic, but we'll get a better idea as the trade deadline continues.